What's going on, everyone? Jackson here from Vendetta Sports Media, back with another episode of our NBA preview series for the 2021-2022 season. Today, I am joined by Carl Heiser, part of our NBA team, also does a lot with college hoops as well. Carl, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. Yeah, this is fun. I get to talk about professional hoops now.
I know, and we're not far away. As these have been coming out, preseason games have been moving along. We're 8 days away from, as of recording this episode, 8 days away from the official tip off of the season. But for this episode, Carl and I, we will be, well, specifically Carl, we will be talking about the Charlotte Hornets. So, Carl, give me a little bit of a review of what happened with the Hornets last season.
Yeah, so the Hornets last year finished 33 and 39, and under a traditional playoff format would have missed the playoffs, but the NBA introduced a new little wrinkle in the play-in tournament. So, um, I guess it's a little bit of an achievement. They qualified for the play-in tournament, didn't make the playoffs, but showed some promise with their young players. LaMelo Ball won the Rookie of the Year award. And so definitely a lot of things to be excited about for Charlotte fans moving forward. So yeah, a lot of the questions entering this year are surround the how they surround LaMelo Ball with talent and whether or not they can improve on their standing from last season because the East has in the last few years definitely gotten better. And yeah, so that's kind of where we are with the Hornets as far as last season goes.
Yeah, I would consider last season a success for them, given what they were coming into and the fact that they were in that position. And they had a lot of injuries last year. Gordon Hayward missed a significant amount of time. LaMelo Ball missed a significant amount of time. So, it's going to be interesting to see how they perform this season. Now, who did the Hornets bring in this year? Draft, free agency, traded. Who are some players that they brought in, and if there's any key players that they lost this offseason, or if they kind of kept it all together?
Yeah, so there's a fair amount of turnover in the offseason. I'll start with the draft picks just because that's kind of my wheelhouse as far as NBA goes. But so they drafted James Booknight in the lottery from UConn, really good scorer. Sort of projects to be a maybe not as maybe a less efficient Zach Levine, just with his athleticism and the different ways that he can score the ball. They also got Kai Jones from Texas in the first round, which I thought is a match made in heaven for them. They're essentially just surrounding LaMelo Ball with a bunch of freak athletes that he can throw alley oops to. And yeah, Kai Jones will be great just as a rim runner. And the Hornets found themselves playing a lot of transition ball last year. Their pace was super high, and it might even be faster this year. Who's to say? But yeah, this is a team that's going to run, and they're kind of picking up players that will make that happen. Some other players that they added, um, they added Ish Smith as a free agent signing, just to kind of fill in some of the guard depth. And what's interesting about I think this is Ish Smith's like 12th team in 12 seasons or something like that. So he is the definition of a journeyman. They also bring in Kelly Oubre Jr., which Jackson, if you had to guess, how old is Kelly Oubre Jr.?
Like 24, 25?
Okay, yeah. So he's 25, but that
Okay.
was honestly surprising to me because it feels like he's been in the league forever. So
Uh,
not the most efficient shooter, but potentially, somebody that will still be of use to Charlotte. As far as like significant signings, that's I believe pretty much it. And then losses, they lost one of the franchise greats in Cody Zeller. He is no longer a Charlotte Hornet. Um,
Hornets
they
fans are gonna
lose
they're gonna have to get used to seeing Zeller in a different jersey. Not
I know it just doesn't feel right,
no.
but they lose him. They lose Malik Monk, um, and they lose Devonte Graham, who was one of the best players. Really broke out in the last 2 years after kind of not being super impressive to start his career. So they lose some scoring and definitely some depth, but yeah, overall they're kind of just reshuffling the deck a little bit, bringing in some younger pieces and some guys that they think will help them a little more than maybe the other guys did.
So going into this season, who on the Hornets is the key player? Who is it? I mean, I may have an idea. You may surprise me on who the key player is here on some of these bigger teams or teams with big stars. It kind of gets a little this part's the easiest part of the prediction and of this series. But who's your key player for the Hornets this season?
I mean, it has to be LaMelo Ball, right?
Yeah.
Like he's clearly shown that he's going to be the franchise guy for the Hornets moving forward. And a big question for this season is whether he can take, like, he looked very impressive last year, but he did miss some time with some injuries. And the question is he going to take that next step? Is he going to be somebody that he shot, I think, 43% from the field last year? So probably be good for him to take the next step with regards to his efficiency. But as far as like his scoring and his playmaking and his rebounding from the guard spot, like he he is the guy moving forward. And yeah, it really just kind of goes as he goes. We saw that Trey Young in his second year really took that step to being the definite franchise guy. And so if we can see something similar from LaMelo here, that'll drastically improve the Hornets projection going into next season.
So you've given us your key player for the Hornets. Now, X factor, it could be a number of things. A player, trade, shuffling the deck, something like that. What's your X factor for the Hornets this season?
Yeah, my X factor for the Hornets, there were a couple different directions that I thought about going with this. But given that I'll say Miles Bridges. I'll go with Miles Bridges.
Okay.
Um, because something that kind of flew under the radar last year is that he was, I think, four made free throws away from being a 50, 40, 90 player.
Hmm.
Which not a lot of people, I think, realize that, but he was extremely efficient and one of LaMelo's go-to guys. So, with his kind of emergence as this, secondary or even tertiary guy, like that's in the NBA, that's a very important spot. If your third best guy is better than the other team's third best guy, like you're sitting pretty. So he averaged 12 and 6 last year. So pretty solid. So and with his efficiency numbers, I would like to think that he's going to get a few more looks, a few more touches this year, to see if that they can kind of extrapolate those numbers into just more production. But yeah, I like what Miles Bridges brought to them last year. And yeah, I think moving forward, you have to kind of see what you have with him.
Yeah, that is pretty surprising about the numbers and the efficiency of Bridges because I feel like you just didn't hear that much about him last season, and I feel like honestly you didn't hear much about this Hornets team last season, even though they
Mhm.
had a high profile draft pick and personality in Lamelo Ball, and then how well they actually played. Just again plugged with injuries to key players. They were one of my teams like instantly after the LaMelo Ball pick and the offseason signings that they were a team that I was going to pay a lot of attention to last season, and they still are because like you I want to see what LaMelo can do in his second year. I want to see if Gordon Hayward can continue this resurgence in his career
Mhm.
that he's having. In Boston he was never the same after his leg injury, but ever since he came to Charlotte, he kind of showed flashes of Utah Gordon Hayward. Um, so it's gonna be fun to watch this season, definitely.
Mhm.
And speaking of fun to watch this season and where they potentially could end up, what is your season prediction? Where do the Hornets finish? Are they kind of in the same spot? Do they make the playoffs? Are they in the play-in? How do things go down? How do you see them going down?
Yeah, so that's an interesting question. I guess just thinking through the way that the Hornets go about um, sort of playing on both sides of the ball. With offense, it's a lot of transition. They like to run, and I don't know that they necessarily have the knockdown shooters to make that a super effective game plan for them. They'll definitely it'll keep them in games, I think, just racking up possessions. But if there's a team that's hitting shots when they aren't, then they could be out of it very quick. And then defensively, they don't have a ton of really great individual defenders, and so they play a lot of zone defense just to kind of mitigate some of just so that other teams can't expose some of the poor defenders that they have. Um, and so that kind of resulted in a league. They're a league average defense. The zone worked decently well for them. But I would like to see them be. I think they'll be a higher end play-in team. So I think we're looking at them as maybe the 7 to 8 seed, and I think they can. I think they can secure the eight playoff seed in the East. They're it's just very tough when you look at some of these other teams with more established stars and more dependable role players. So I think that's probably the ceiling for this team. But that's not to say that in a few years we won't be looking at them as a top four team in the East.
All right, so Carl thinks that the Charlotte Hornets this season, minimum a fringe playoff team, and ceiling they get the eighth spot, seventh, eighth spot, and we will be seeing LaMelo Ball in playoff action this season. Again, thank you guys so much for watching this episode of our NBA preview series for this upcoming season. If you enjoy the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. And if you do subscribe, make sure to hit the notification bell so you can be notified whenever the next episode in our series drops. I'm Jackson Law. He's Carl Heiser. We're a part of Vendetta Sports Media, and we'll see you guys next time.